On March 7, over 100 students were kidnapped in Kuriga town in Kaduna State. While the incident generated public outrage among Nigerians, reports barely covered the details of the incident, including how and why the student endured such a life-threatening ordeal. The International Center for Investigative Reporting has done a detailed investigation into what led to that kidnapping. 3 weeks after gun-blazing bandits fled her adopted son, Hauwa'u Haruna still feels despair resulting from the incident that led to the adoption of 137 schoolchildren in the remote town of Kuriga in Kaduna State. The shock in her is apparent, and her teary eyes betray her grief even as she struggles to hold back the tears cascading down her cheeks during the interview. When the bandits kidnapped the schoolchildren, her husband, Abubakar Isah, who happened to be the school principal, was taken along but will not return alive as he died in captivity, succumbing to the torture and continuous beating inflicted on him by the bandits. Haruna says she remembers her 40-year-old husband anytime she sets her eyes on her son, Isah Abubakar, who witnessed the gruesome killing of his father. When I heard the news that the terrorists kidnapped the student, including my first child and my husband, I was really shocked. I was in this difficult situation when I learned that my husband died in the hands of the bandit, Haruna says. The couple has 5 children together, and the burden of responsibilities has now completely shifted to her despite being a full housewife with no means of income. I do not have any business when my husband is alive as he took care of the family, but I'm thinking of continuing with my husband's business, which is selling cosmetic products, she added. Lying close to her is her son, a 14-year-old Abubakar. He has seen firsthand the brutal assault and torture inflicted upon his father by the bandit until his very last gasp. He wouldn't dare speak of the relationship to his principal father during the incident that saw them hauled out of school and led into the wilderness along Beniguari down to Zamfara at gunpoint. He now wonders if he can continue his education in Kuriga, which will be a constant reminder of the trauma he faced. On Thursday, March 7, students had begun to gather for their morning assembly when they started to hear gunshots from every corner of the unfenced school premises. When the students tried to flee in different directions for safety, it was unknown to them that they had been cornered. There was no means of escape. The local security and some of the residents, despite quickly arming themselves, could only watch the bandits go away with their children due to fear of shooting down their walls. During the attack, the bandits shot the local security man dead and scared away other residents with sporadic, relentless, and indiscriminate shooting. The terrorists who came through the forest leading to Beniguari, bordering Zamfara State, gathered all students and some of the teachers in the school premises and had them in a couple of lines. When everyone was in the same place, they escorted them into the forest, with some bandits leading the way with motorcycles. As we were coming out of the principal office, we saw several bandits around the school premises and found out that there was no way we could run to the town. They asked us to enter the bush and they wanted to ask us few questions. And when we followed their instruction and entered the bush, with cane and gun in their hands, says one of the school children, Abdullahi Sani. The LEA primary and secondary school sit by the roadside just at the town's entrance, tucked in the middle of forest. The primary and secondary school initially had separate buildings, but in 2021, the school authorities made a bold step to merge the school after receiving an order from the state government to either move the school from the outskirts of the town to the main town or shut it down. This, the teacher said, was to keep the hope of their students alive. Contrary to reported adoption of 287 schoolchildren from the LEA primary and secondary school in Kuriga, Chiko local government area of Kaduna State, authorities gave the number of adopted children as 137. Additionally, the adopted students and parents who spoke to the ICIR confirmed the number to be 137. Before the incident, there had been a series of attacks and abduction in Kuriga and some other neighboring villages, including the kidnapping of one of the adopted students' parents, Hama Abdullahi, before she was released after a ransom was paid. Although, unlike the previous mass abduction of Federal Government College, Biniyari, Kebbi State, where letters were delivered to the school, teachers and residents said they received no letter, but have always taken precautionary measures and most times have their men outside on a night watch. For the past 7 years, Kaduna State has become a hub of insecurity, facing relentless attacks by bandits, with reports indicating that at least 10 out of the 23 local government areas have been targeted. While the attack succeeded last year, the state still accounted for massive figures in both the deaths and kidnapping of residents in the country, as about 200 were reportedly killed, 700 residents kidnapped alone in the first quarter of 2023, and unconfirmed numbers of people were displaced. The journey into the terrorist camp said to be the Dansaudo in Zamfara State was a nightmare for the abducted school children. For grueling 2 days, the students journeyed through the various villages and towns in the deep forest under the scorching sun that drained their energy each passing hour on empty stomachs, with the hope that they will be at the destination soon after the invasion. 13-year-old Fatima Mohammed kept heading to the bandit instruction, but the journey will not end until over 40 hours of trekking. She and other captives were marched onward without access to food or water, and any attempt to slow their pace, possibly due to exhaustion, results in weeping. Muhammad, who is a JSU student hoping to become a medical practitioner, said it was impossible for her and her colleagues to run away as they were heavily surrounded. We tried our best to run away, but it was impossible. The terrorists went away with us on a known destination. We spent 2 days walking with our feet before we went to where they kept us in the forest around Zamfara State. We suffer because of these long days. There is not a day that we do not cry because of the hardship. During the long hours of the journey to Dansauda, about 5 students who spoke with the ICIR say there were no attempt by the security operative to rescue them from the hands of the bandits. Findings by the ICIR revealed the Kuriga, where the kidnapping occurred, is approximately 45 kilometers away from Beniguari and about 90.6 kilometers from Zamfara State. The terrorists avoided the usual route and moved the children through the dense forest, likely extending the journey beyond the estimated 90.6 kilometers. Using Google Maps for estimation, the journey from Kuriga, Kaduna State to Dansauda, a distance of about 90.6 kilometers, would take approximately 20 hours and 13 minutes on foot, traveling non-stop. However, the students said it took them 2 days to get into the camp, probably due to their large number. This means that for approximately 48-hour journey, the Nigerian security operative couldn't locate or intercept the abducted students or choose to allow the assailant to carry on with their activities, despite the extensive time frame and the considerable distance covered. Besides, there are about 13 military checkpoints along the Kaduna-Beniguari road, with the closest checkpoint just about 15 minutes drive away from the school. The ICIR also gathered that there is also a military camp near Udawa, which is about an hour drive away from Kuriga. Likewise in Beniguari, which is about 45 kilometers away from where the abduction took place, there is a military base that is barely a 30-minute journey on a drive from the town. Aside from a military base in Udawa and Beniguari, there are other military establishments in the state, which include the Nigeria Defense Academy (NDA), 1 Infantry Division, Jaji, Command and Staff College and Nigerian Army School of Infantry, Jaji, Nigerian Army School of Artillery, and the Nigerian Navy School of Armament Technology, both in Kachi. In a past kidnapping incident, the government and the military had given excuses that the bandits were using civilians as shield to allow them to carry on with their activities unhindered. When the students eventually reached the bandits' camp on Saturday, March 9, where they would spend 14 days, some of them had already given up on any possible freedom. Although their arrival at the camp meant they would have enough time to rest, recuperate from the long journey, and get something to eat, the students still find it hard to adjust to the deep forest, even though they had met some people in captivity. Fatima Mohammed said the bandits treated them to dog food and sometimes fed them handful of cocoa, the local name of pap, twice a day. We drank what the dogs drank. They fed us with cocoa 2 times a day, which they assigned some among us to cook for us. She explained, noting that it was an unforgettable period of her life. When we got there, we met some people who were also adopted by the terrorists, but women were the majority among them. But they had to collect the ransom money for some of them before moving there. They put us in a place that is surrounded with grass. We stayed there and the terrorists did not let us make eye contact with them, and most of them were wearing military uniforms and covered their faces with face masks, Abdullahi added. Also, 15-year-old Hauwa'u Haruna, a JS2, says the experience in captivity was unprecedented as they were maltreated every day and made to do some hard chores. I was in a classroom when I heard some of my colleagues running around shouting, "I don't know, the bandit has surrounded the school." I tried to run out but was not able to because there were too many. Without any options, we followed them to Dansado Forest around Zamfara State, where they kept us for 16 days without bathing or washing. There was no good food, he says, struggling to articulate the ordeal. The experience was similar for few other students, including Abubakar, Sadia Mohammed, Suleiman and Faima, who spoke with the reporter. And on the 16th day that the military announced the release of the school children. However, there were concerns as to whether the government or families of the adopted children paid ransom to the bandits for the release of the children due to vague statements by the military and the state government. While all the parents, teachers and community leaders the ICR spoke to said that no ransom was paid to the terrorists from their end and received no cost instructing them to pay such. Some of the students who were in the bandits camp pointed out that they were picked up by the military, where they sat without any sort of gun duel or resistance from the terrorists. Fatima tells the ICRO that in on the 16th day, and we saw some soldiers coming where we were staying and said we should leave and follow them today and they will take us home. Continuing with a beam of smile on her face, she says, "We happily followed them to where the cars were parked, and all of us were 137, except for our principal, who died as a result of beating because they broke his nose and he was bleeding and he died. After that, we landed in Kaduna, and the government of Kaduna state took responsibility for caring for all of us, changing our clothes, giving us food and good ulcers, and checking our health." Having lost his father to the torture inflicted on them by the bandit, Abubakar, the principal's son, said he had given up until he saw some soldiers arrive at their camp and asked them to follow them to a village in Zamfara State. On the road before we left, we had a lot of trouble with those terrorists because we walked down to Zamfara State with our legs and they kept us outside in the grass. The food they give to the dog is what they give us twice a day, and the kind of water that cows drink is what we take. When the ICRO contacted the Defense Headquarters spokesman Tuku Guswa to confirm whether the children were released or rescued, he directed a reporter to the Kaduna State government, which refused to comment on the finding. Long before the attack, Kuriga had been witnessing a series of attacks from bandits who mostly stopped by the community anytime they were on a mission to ravage some communities. The town, which is very close to Zamfara, a state that has suffered banditry attacks in recent attacks from the hands of Dogogidi's men and the ISWAP, has seen some of the prominent sons lost their life to innocent attack. When the bandit abducted the school children, the community was still reeling from the brutal killing of the former principal of government secondary school Kuriga, Idris Sofian. The terrorists had fatally shot him in his home and also adopted his wife and their infant in January before the two were later rescued in a joint military operation on 3rd February. The attack that claimed Sofian's life was not an isolated event, as the community youth leader Salis Musa Abdul Salam noted that the continuous attack on the community have led to the shutdown of major markets such as Binigwari, Udawa Buruku, and could not go back to farming. As a result of this banditry, many have high blood pressures, many become very poor, and many men and women have lost their spouse. Sofian was the principal replaced by Isah after his demise. With the two, the bandits have now killed no fewer than 5 teachers in the town. However, despite the severity of the attacks, residents say the police station in Kuriga closed down in 2021 when the attacks became too frequent and demanding, leaving them to deal with the bandits themselves. They also noted that the lack of minimal security presence in the area and the disconnection of telecommunication service in 2021 exacerbated the challenges faced in calling for security help. The ICRA report that on September 29, the Kaduna government announced several restrictions, including the shutdown of mobile communication in some part of the state, aimed at addressing the deteriorating security, including the shutdown of telecom service in part of the state. Although the ICRA could not report the return of the police officers in the area, as this report counted 13 military checkpoints and 5 other checkpoints when touring the dangerous 89-kilometer road running from Kuriga town to the city of Kaduna, the network service in the area is still very poor. Residents also confirmed the return of dozens of police officers to the town since the recent adoption. Data from the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO 2020 model estimates on out-of-school children published in 2022 shows that the secondary school out-of-school population has grown by 61% from 6.3 million to 10 million since 2010, while the number of primary school age children who are not in school also increased by 50% from 6.4 million to 9.7 million since 2010. According to the data, almost 20 million Nigerian children are out of school, putting Nigeria as a country with the third highest number of children deprived of education, only behind India and Pakistan. Insecurity, as reported by the UNEP, stands out as a major reason for this humanitarian crisis. In many regions battling with insecurity, particularly Kaduna, some communities have been deserted, leaving schools shattered and interrupting the education of countless children at both the primary and the secondary levels. In 2021, following the mass abduction of students of the Bethel Baptist High School in Kaduna, the state government ordered the closure of schools in the state. According to the State Ministry of Education's annual school census report 2018-2019, February 2020, the closure affected over 5,000 pre-primary to secondary school pupils, both private and public. However, while many schools resumed school activities a few months later, some in the insecurity reading area remain shut down. The ICIR also gathered that some of the neighboring village schools are shut down. Thank you for watching. What do you think about this report? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Please like, subscribe, share this video. I'll see you in the next video.